In moving the goalposts, you'll see that some organisations have done very well out of local government and state government, and this is the story I wanted to share. The Lynch family gifted and sold property to Hawthorn Council for gardens and sports grounds. It was on the 1st of March 1902, Mr Lynch wrote to Council offering 9 acres for £3,700. In his short term in office, Mayor Goldsmith steered Council towards providing sites for local sporting clubs. While using ratepayer funds to acquire public parks was popular, giving bowling and tennis clubs occupation was not. Here is an overview of my vision for the long-term future of Hawthorn Sports Grounds. A key feature is to get all of the car parking off land originally set aside for community sport and recreation. In the late 1950s, Coles were looking to move their variety store away from the Glenferrie railway station to be close to potential car parking. The real estate agent TJ Collins was across the road from Coles' variety store and no doubt tipped off Coles management that they were going to auction off the old Silks dance hall. The conditions of sale were generous for Coles, with a £10,000 deposit and 10 years for the balance in equal yearly amounts. The most important factor that led to Coles' success in Glenferrie Road was securing sites with a dedicated car park on land owned by the city. The managing director of Coles at the time was Edgar Coles. Tennis was a big part of Edgar Coles' younger life. He was a member of the Grace Park Tennis Club, some 300 metres away from the Hawthorn Tennis Club, and was an Australian tennis champion in the B-grade competition. In the late 1950s, Edgar focused on securing free parking next to his stores, and despite his local tennis background, he seemed to have no qualms about displacing the tennis and bowling clubs with a 300 capacity car park. It did not matter that both clubs had occupied this site for over 50 years. He said, "And in our suburbs, we want our suburban councillors to realise the danger to their established shopping centres unless they provide parking for shoppers." He then finished by saying, "We can all help by advocating these things to preserve our way of life, and continue to give a fair trade to all. On the 1st of October 1958, the council decided to move the City of Hawthorn Bowling Club and the Hawthorn Tennis Club. The cost to the ratepayers of providing alternative rinks and courts at the old Tinton school site, not including new pavilions, was over £20,000. In June 1963, the Melbourne Metropolitan Board of Works sought Hawthorn Council's views on Coles' permit application for a supermarket at 689 to 699 Glenferrie Road. Council minutes record that there was no mention of any concerns about Coles knocking down the wonderful Hoyt's Palace cinema. So the Hawthorn Council rolled out the red carpet for Coles and waved their permit application through, having already built stage 1 of a car park for their supermarket. The Hoyt's Palace Theatre was designed by Chris Cowper, architect. In fact, it was his first picture theatre. In a further boost to Coles, the council sprayed on Glenferrie Road surface free parking area and large arrows directing all cars to the car park directly behind Coles supermarket. I think it's useful to consider the true cost of Coles setting up business in Glenferrie Road. Of course, the community lost the lovely old picture theatre. Then there was the cost to council of moving the sports clubs. And then there was the cost of building the car park. After Coles opened, grocery stores went from 9 to 4 and dairy outlets went from 3 to 1. There was an enormous cost to the community of Coles setting up business there. 20 years after the car park was completed, there was some nervousness within the Hawthorn City Council, particularly the city engineer Ken McNamara, about the suitability of the land as solely for car parking. He was quoted in the newspaper as saying, "We can't afford to have such large areas of asphalt used only as car parks." The Glenferrie shopping centre is crying out for a car-free, green and peaceful public gathering place. Great public places contribute to community health by allowing people to relax and enjoy themselves. The Glenferrie gathering place would be a friendly and inviting front porch to the shopping strip. While not being too prescriptive, its location to the Glen Arcade with eating and entertainment venues lends itself to outdoor dining under existing large trees. So what to do about long-term car parking? My suggestion is for Council to acquire 699 to 701 Glenferrie Road, and this building would be demolished to create a realignment of Linda Crescent with Park Street and the creation of 2 parklets that would lead into Glenferrie Gathering Place. As a redesigned intersection, it would allow easier and safer car movement into a multi-level car park to be located in a commercial zone between Park and Wakefield Streets. The multi-level car park would be next to the multi-level Swinburne car park, so there'd be no amenity impact to residential areas. The new intersection would give safer crossing for pedestrians and minimise Glenferrie Road through traffic delays caused by turning cars into and out of Linda Crescent. The formation of Grace Park Hawthorn Club can be traced back to the Grace Park Leasehold Company, which considered that it would be easy to sell land in the Grace Park estate if a recreation club existed on the estate. The use of Grace Park by the tennis club has always been a tense one between Hilda Crescent residents and the club. I propose a land swap between Burundara Council and Grace Park Hawthorn Club to allow courts 5, 6 and 7 to be located adjacent to the railway line, and an alternative car park created in a closed-off Hilda Crescent near Linda Crescent. This would allow considerable park to be opened up between Glenferrie Oval and Grace Park. Other than regrading the train line, electrification of the train service and the marquee ticketing system, for the most part Glenferrie station is still stuck in the past. This is an overview of the concept for a new Glenferrie transport hub. On the western side, it involves building a new Grace Park station that allows escalator and lift access to the western side of Glenferrie Road, as well as extending platforms 1 and 2 between the two metal bridges over Glenferrie Road to allow escalator and lift access from platforms 1 and 2 extension. On the eastern side of the plan, you can see an escalator would take passengers directly into the Swinburne campus because the railway embankment would be removed and replaced by Skyrail. This will allow an escalator to be built on partially removing the furthest end of the platform 1 and 2. The railway embankment from Grace Park to Camberwell takes up an enormous width of land, very valuable land. This embankment could be removed with strategic use of Skyrail, opening up the Swinburne community and giving greater access to the Hawthorn sports grounds.